I'm Pamela Portnoy, and no one's okay. I'm really still trying to get used to that.
I don't know that you ever will.
Welcome back to No One's Okay. We are back. I am here today with an actor, a director, an acting teacher extraordinaire. Daniel Travis is here with me in studio. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, my dear.
How are you?
Not okay. We're in the
Certainly
not okay.
not.
No one's okay.
No, we're swimming in the either better than or worse than and embracing it.
All things, exactly.
Wonderful.
It's really good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I'm so happy to be here with you, having a drink as if like things were like normal.
It feels odd, yes.
It's very odd. It's like so normal, it's weird.
Yes. As traffic coming here and everything else.
When traffic started coming back, I was completely freaked out.
Yeah.
Tell our audience the beginning of your journey through now. Don't leave anything out. Just kidding. Leave out whatever you want.
I started in Michigan, in a tiny, tiny town. And my first production, I think, was a summer theater of Treasure Island, and I played Captain Smollett. I think I was hooked at the Depot Theater.
Literally hooked?
Exactly. Exactly. Nicely done. Well played.
Very good.
Yeah, got the bug, and that was kind of it.
Excellent.
On my way. From Michigan to college in Ohio to New York to New Jersey to LA. And that was...
That's some quick jumps.
Yeah. That's, the past is the past. It was, I did a lot of stuff that I'm proud of. Some of it was really fun to do. And I'm now on this next chapter and coming out of the pandemic, trying to get all my students backed up to snuff too.
I really wonder how I'm excited to see how it's gonna go.
Who we've all become.
Oh yeah. Do you think we're all like drastically different?
I don't think anyone can't be.
Yeah.
I think we all are. I think that's one of the things that's most sort of unnerving for me right now as we've kind of moved back into this is that we're not, no one's really acknowledging the sort of collective PTSD that the whole world experienced.
Yeah.
And that we're all kind of in the midst of some really sort of transformative times.
Mm-hmm.
And people got used to who they were also in pandemic life.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. It'll be really interesting to see everybody and see what's become of everyone.
What's become of what's left? What shreds are left behind?
Or what growth? Some of it's potentially really phenomenal and changing in a really good way. We kind of had to all strip down to our bare essences of, stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so who you've become after that. We talk about this with script analysis stuff in class.
Yeah.
There's certain events, global events that happen that everyone needs to be aware of regardless of what piece you're working on because the world changed in those events.
Yeah.
9/11 was another one of those events and those times where we all just sort of, you have to understand what happened pre and post that time in order to honor the given circumstances of that time. And I think now there is pre and post pandemic, and the shift in collective energy and understanding globally is all going to be part of that.
Absolutely. One of the things that has always struck me about you, because I do have the honor of being in your class, and I've been in your class for a very long time now. Very long time. I don't know why I put the very. Does it feel like a very long time?
No, it doesn't.
It feels just like a blip.
It's a good thing. It's a growth time.
So yeah, one of the things that struck me about you is like you give the most insightful opening speeches in every class, and I don't want to like take away from whatever you've got planned for whenever we do startup class, but like give our listeners a flavor. Give us some of that. Like, what would you say to artists that are coming out of this past year and a half of insanity?
What would I say to them in terms of where you should be focusing? What do you need to be doing, or
Sure. Yeah.
Self-care is critical right now.
Yeah.
Honoring this sort of understanding of collective PTSD is really hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is based in empathy. What we do is an attempt to channel an understanding of a given set of circumstances that are a different perspective, a perspective that is not necessarily yours. And this time is a hugely pivotal time in the world. And so getting to a place where you have the ability to stretch and put yourself in another's shoes. I mean, we've had an amazing transformative time in terms of discussions and conversations and painful discussions and painful conversations about how the world needs to shift and honor each other's perspectives more. And I think that the more that you take time to step into someone else's path for a minute, step into another set of shoes for a moment, and put yourself in an empathetic understanding, we're all going to be in a better position right now. That's not just actors, that's everybody. And I do hope that we take this time and take this opportunity to not necessarily just go back to what was, but to reset and make better.
Mm-hmm.
And as artists, our job is to help further that. And I think that's a big part of what should be happening for all of us. Take care of yourself, take care of each other. I talked about this with a couple of friends of mine, the two friends that I bubble saw during pandemic.
I love using that as a verb. I bubbled them.
I bubbled with them. I bubbled with two friends, and we talked about it quite a bit. But I think the last 4 years, the last 20 years, there's been this sort of pervasive, growing, I always refer to it as the Ghostbusters pink slime of anger. And I feel like that's sort of taking over in a global perspective in a much different way. And we are at each other in a way that we haven't been globally in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that our ability to be able to see another perspective, honor another perspective, whether or not you agree with that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing that we talk about when you're talking about defending character actions that you don't necessarily agree with. You still have to honor their choices and understand them.
Mm-hmm.
So compassion, empathy, self-care. That's my prescription for now.
The image I was getting in my head when you were saying this was wrapping your arms around the things that you don't understand or don't necessarily agree with. And usually when I think about that, I think about things internally within myself that I notice and I don't necessarily like. It's like, I'm going to give that a hug.
Yeah.
And just bring that along.
Yep.
And see, I'd guess I was talking about anxiety in that way. Oh, that's going to be there just watching.
Yep.
But you can't steer. You can be in the car and I'll give you love, but like you can't steer.
It's the same thing when I talk to you guys about taking the little green voice that's in your head, that's the critical voice, and go send them to Starbucks during class time. You are absolutely going to pick them up on the way home because you know they're still going to be there. But give yourself a break from that for a minute, or honor it, show it some love.
And I think like when we tackle ourselves that way, or we try to. I think it's just as powerful to do that with other people.
Yep.
Too, like some people that will have a differing viewpoint. Particular, like a lot of tempers have been really up there with what's been going on. People I'm very good friends with people that I like. We have very different styles of how like we've been managing, but the ones that I've really been able to like in our relationship has grown.
Mm-hmm.
Was because we've kind of just like loved and accepted and metaphorically thrown our arms around each other, knowing, yes, we disagree, but having a respect.
And having a discussion about necessarily or potentially a civil discussion about things.
For sure.
So you don't have to agree.
Yeah.
But you can still talk about stuff. I don't want people to go off into their corners and just say it's all about love and that's it. I do think there's work to be done, but I think it has to be rationally understood.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got to do their homework.
Mm-hmm.
And then come to the table understanding, and also then with an empathetic hand and heart,
mm-hmm.
have this discussion with another person.
Yes. So zooming in on the self-care thing,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, all the things.
All the things.
What are some things that you do to take care of you?
I got hooked on riding my bike during the pandemic.
I had a feeling you did.
You
almost rode your bike here.
I almost rode it here. It was too damn hot.
So hot. 94 degrees outside, you guys.
Yeah, it has become a kind of therapy for me. It is that sort of hypnotic motion I can work out, issues of the day. I'm having a physical experience. I'm also working breath work while I'm doing that stuff as well. That's a big part of the self-care aspect for me. Also, I've been trying to cook. I am not a cook.
I'm not either, but I have been too.
I call myself basically an assembler, but I put things together. And
you have a mortar and pestle in your kitchen, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
How do you say you don't cook?
I've never used it.
Okay.
So there you it's there. But yeah, I'm not a great cook, but I've tried to. I was doing my own sort of little version of Will Smith's I Am Legend for the last year. I've been on my own, and with the exception of seeing like two friends occasionally in an outdoor setting kind of thing. So you spend a lot of time on your own. This is an opportunity to self-assess and to eat healthy and to work out well and to do those things. I didn't want to come out of the pandemic thinking I shoulda, woulda, coulda, or I wished I had. I did not attempt to write the next Moby Dick during this time, nor did I want to change the wheel because a lot of us were spending time just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of all of us for that and for that level of self-care. And then going and getting a vaccine when it's time, because that's community care and understanding. So.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yeah, riding, physical activity's big. I just started reading a book by James Nestor called Breath, and it's about how we breathe and how we've started. This is now you're getting tips on future lessons in class, but yeah.
Oh, excellent. Good. Because I was going to ask, like, what are the must-read books?
Oh, I brought a stack of them, actually.
Oh, excellent.
But yeah, that's taking care of and honoring this instrument. You only get one. And so all of that stuff has been really important to me in the midst of this time. And self-care, that's what it boils down to for me. I do think everyone should be not trying to just jump back in and going, oh, okay, great. We're all open. Everything's great. Let's go. You got to take a minute here. Everybody's been through some stuff.
Yeah. And everyone's going to transition differently too.
And honor that with each other. Some people,
are ready to party, ready to go. And some people are like,
you got to be at your own comfort level.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be getting on a plane in a week, and I wasn't great on flying beforehand, so this is super not great for me. But
yeah,
baby steps. I know people who've been on tons of flights already.
Yeah. I have one in August. I feel better about it, but yeah. It's strange.
Yeah.
Because I would often travel before, so.
Yep.
It's going to be an adjustment for sure.
Uh-huh.
Have you heard of Wim Hof breathing? Why are you laughing?
Because of course
Is that what you've been doing?
That's part of what is in this book, and that's also part of what I've been sort of attempting to. I'm working my way into the cold stuff. I'm not quite there yet, but yes, I am familiar with Wim Hof.
It's so interesting. I've been training outside with a friend of mine, and I showed up, and I was like, I can't believe I showed up. I was having one of those days, and he's like, why don't we just like breathe and stretch today? instead of going crazy and like lifting like 50-pound sacks and things, which is what I did yesterday, and I'm like really sore. But
Was this
anyway,
James?
no. But yeah, James would be like, no excuses, play like a champion.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. They're
And you waited
all
this
wonderful.
long. You waited this long to have me on the show. Everybody, all the other famous people, Katie Ryan and Drew Kenny.
Drew Kenny, and James and Luke.
Yeah, you have to have Anne on at some point.
I am gonna have Anne.
Anne's
gonna
be a good guest.
If she will, if she would be willing to dazzle me, I'm gonna have Anne on.
She's absolutely easily dazzled.
Everybody wants a piece of Anne.
Yep.
Okay. Sip. We were doing some Wim Hof at this session. And first of all, I didn't know breathing could be so hard.
Partially because you've been doing it wrong your whole life.
Apparently.
We all have.
I've been wanting, I heard
I'm
of that
not saying
book.
that's specific to you. I'm saying that in all of us.
It's so true. Apparently we don't know how to breathe or sleep.
Correct.
But with this breathing, we did 3 rounds of 30.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the first, I was like, I don't know how I can do 2 more rounds of this. And then we did it, and he guided me through it. And I had this feeling of just I felt like I came out of a 2-hour massage. Is that how you
that sort
feel
of
after
spacey
it?
Kind of
very space, like
where am
everything's
I?
fine.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like a little high, sort
little
of.
bit of a noodle, little high. Yeah, because you've got so much more oxygen in your system than you usually operate with.
So it was. So I do want to incorporate it more, but it sounds really easy. Just breathe for like 15, 20 minutes, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. And in part because those muscles are not regularly exercised.
Yeah.
In the right way.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm glad you're doing that.
Thank you. I'm not doing it as well as I should or as often as I should, but that's a goal that I have.
A little bit at a time and keep going.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Do you meditate?
That was another thing that I started doing during the pandemic. Yes. And that was something I always hated and was not good with because I wanted to be doing something. And I finally found an approach and practice that actually worked for me to start, which is Sam Harris's Waking Up app. And
okay,
it's something about his sort of no-nonsense approach and the ease with which you go into it. It starts with 10-minute meditations and works your way up into 20, 30, 40-minute meditations.
Jason goes for an hour.
That's when you after 20 minutes is when you start to have the physiological distinctions and changes. Up to then it can be sort of a calming, but after 20 minutes is when you start to really get in depth with respect to meditation. And if you can do it consistently, that was my thing, is that during the pandemic, I had my little spot. I did my little, burning of my sage, and then I did my meditation, and it was a thing. But after a while, he even talks about it. He said, you shouldn't do this in one place at one time. This is meant to be an understanding that it's a mindset and approach throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So even just in this moment, if you're asking me a question and I close my eyes for half a second, I'm supposed to be able to reset into that headspace and then come back out. And I'm not quite there yet, but working on it. But yeah.
That would be intensely useful for not only just every human being on the planet, but like particularly when it comes to centering before an audition or getting into character or anything like that.
And we talk about that in class a little bit, but yeah, that is an absolutely great way to get yourself to a place of neutrality and understanding and then walk into the work. So.
And I imagine like people always say like leave the shit at the door, which is I think like an excellent way to put it. But sometimes it can be really hard, and I feel like if you practice this a lot, maybe it would make it easier.
Same thing with your breath work, yeah. Once the musculature gets an understanding of it. And
my stomach was so
I'm
sore.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Diaphragm.
Yeah.
Just
pulsating.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you felt warm in your core, and I'm sure you felt a little lightheaded and a little fingers tingling.
And my hands tingling.
Yeah, exactly. You're awakening some things. You're also increasing your blood flow, and you're oxygenating your blood in a different way, and you're changing your the alpha rhythms in your brain, and putting yourself in a more receptive state. All of that stuff, like
that it's so cool. It's oh man, yeah. I totally was gonna
you
say
just
something.
went someplace.
I just like had a journey in my head.
It was great.
The cold stuff that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played around with that at all, or are you just
Not yet?
This friend that taught me, we went to Big Bear last year.
Mm-hmm.
Not while it was cold, but like starting to warm up, and we went down to the lake, and I just like sat on the sand and was just like having a drink and just chilling. And he's like, I'm gonna go into the water. And I touched the water, it was freezing. I'm like, it's freezing, you're not going in the water. And he's like, I'll be back. He goes around the corner, and we were like, he's Wim hopping, like we were making fun of him. But then he just like he was just swimming as if it was nothing. And then joke's on me, now I want to become an expert on this. Right. Of course.
Changing that understanding or your relationship to it. Russell Brand is big into Wim Hof stuff. And
it's fascinating.
You can change your relationship to temperature that way as well. Like, I've seen photos of Wim climbing mountains in shorts and nothing else, and how he is about cold. It's just a different sensation. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, and I've become a wussy Californian, thin-blooded with
that tends to happen when you come here.
Yeah,
it happens.
It's kind of nutty.
Now I've grew up here, so I've always been that way. I can't imagine. I'll like go visit the cold for 2-3 days because it's a novelty.
Right.
But then I'm over it.
They say now they've finally discovered that yes, your blood does thin. It legitimately does in climate. It takes 3 days for your blood to adjust to whatever climate you're in. So that's why when you go immediately to a super cold place from California, you're way more cold than everybody else is.
Yeah.
And that's why the Midwesterners are taking off their shirts when it's 50 degrees because it feels spring-like to them. It's because you've come from a different...
And I'm in a parka.
Exactly. It's because you've your body's still on California time / temperature. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Okay, I'm excited to read that book then.
Yes.
Very good.
Absolutely.
I love that you brought this stack of books. I saw you in the parking lot. I was like, oh, this is our assigned reading for class.
No, I was nervous. I haven't done this. I actually have never done this. I'm
so happy I get to break you in.
Yes,
and I hope this won't be your last. You're going to be completely turned off.
I just didn't want to come unprepared. So
no, you are spectacular. What would you say to people who, because we talked about self-care and just like not being too hard on ourselves because everyone's going to adjust differently. What would you say to people who were ready and feeling like, okay, I want to put my foot on the gas? What would you say to someone to like motivate them? Like, what's the best way to get out of a creative rut and just start full steam heading?
I honestly, I don't think anybody should.
Don't do it.
No, I don't think anybody's in a creative rut right now. I don't think there's. We've all had this time, so I feel like it's a clean slate for everybody. Nobody's expecting you to come out of the pandemic having written Moby Dick, or so use this time, especially as things are starting to come back open and people are starting to feel more comfortable, to re-engage and reestablish. I mean, we're talking about doing classes again together, and use and honor the energy that you have of, okay, I've been through something and now I'm ready to start again. You come from that place, absolutely. Also recognizing that it might take a little time for everyone else to catch up with you.
Good answer. I like that very much. I wanted to just, I'm also nervous.
Good.
I'm also nervous.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I'm like, oh God, Daniel's coming. I gotta like be on my game. Before I move on to my news segment, I have a question for you. It's kind of a weird one. What would a PSA be to someone that has an artist in their life? What would you like people to know? What is
You're asking me for like the handle it with care instructions
Yes.
for an actor? Like, don't feed them after midnight.
You know, it's so funny because I was on another podcast and they asked me that question, or maybe I just like volunteered the information. I'm like, everybody, listen up. If you got someone in your life that is a creative, listen carefully.
That's funny. We need them. Honor them. What we do, you know, we've talked about this in class. You know, honoring the empathetic warriors. There is a reason the arts exist. They are a primary function of our world. They are not extraneous. They are reading, writing, arithmetic, and the arts are actually all in the same. They're of a piece. They're all part of what we need as a community, as a society, to learn from each other and to grow. And you should be those artists and those creative people who are willing to step into those tough areas and bring light to the rest of us and show faces of experiences and existences that we are unfamiliar with. Those things need to be honored. And my PSA would be to say, do that. Yeah, I mean, actors get a bad rap in a lot of respects as being sort of spoiled, entitled, removed individuals. And there are those people, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But there are
all kinds of people.
Right. There are also huge numbers of us who are out there for the greater good and who are interested in honoring that. And that needs to be recognized. Like, arts funding in school should not be a discussion. Mm-hmm. If you're going to take away the football team, and if you're going to take away, you know, math tutoring, and if you're going to take away that stuff, then I can understand it. But if that's the first thing to go all the time, we have a problem. Yeah. That's not there. Well, then what are we doing?
100%. Yeah, I do feel like there's kind of this, I don't know if stigma is the right word.
Stigma, is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the right word, but I feel like there's this thought that people have that people that are actors take it so like too seriously, whatever that means. Right. That really what we're doing is playing, because we're playing pretend and we're playing, which is true. And sometimes I feel self-conscious, you know, because I'm like, oh, does this person think I'm like taking myself too seriously?
It is the only one of the art forms that everyone thinks they can do.
That's really interesting.
People do not walk into Carnegie Hall assuming they're going to be an opera singer, or assuming they are an opera singer, excuse me.
People pick up paintbrushes all the time to paint, but like, I don't think they're going to be like, this belongs in the Louvre.
Exactly. But every day, everybody else goes, oh, I can do that. I can act.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. And I don't know why those people think that they're better than us, because they think they're like they can do that. It's not. There's not a suggestion of that.
Why is that, do you think?
I think because so much of what we do is meant to look easy. We spend so much time and spend so much effort in order to make it look effortless. Mm-hmm. I am under no illusions that I'm not going to be able to step on a track and run as fast as Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
But, you know, Joe thinks that he can absolutely get a part in a movie and be just fine.
Yeah.
They have that assumption. There's that expectation. And so I do think that where we come from is a little bit of a different place and energy.
Yeah. And what do we do with that? Just keep moving forward?
Yeah, I don't
know why I'm like so interested in this topic now. I'm like, PSA, trying to like give us a better rap. Like, I don't know why I'm so concerned about our reputations.
I don't think it's going to change. And
I don't think so either.
I love you, but I don't think this podcast is going to be the single thing that affects that change.
Or will it?
Or will it? Yeah, exactly. It'll be great. I don't think there is anything to do at the moment. I think that activism is a part of something that needs to be sort of thought about. I know that there are all manner of people who suggest that actors need to stay in their lane and not have comment on this, or not use your platform for this, or not talk about this because you're just a silly actor.
Mm-hmm.
Those silly actors are also people who are citizens who participate in the world just like the rest of us. And yes, I do think that they need to be careful about how they use their voice, but I do think honoring sort of a sense of a communal growth, and it's not just a question of what do we as actors do about that? What do we as citizens do about furthering society? What do we as humans, what can I contribute to the conversation? What can I contribute to the discussion? What can I contribute to in service of the greater collective? What can I make better here?
Mm-hmm.
And if my way of doing that is through acting, great. If my way of doing that is through being a mathematician, phenomenal. If my way of doing that is being a CPA, great. But they're not different.
Yeah.
Participate in the conversation, participate in the collective discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
What came to mind was the video Actors Against Athletes Acting.
Wait, what?
Have you seen this Gary Oldman? I don't know if it's like a YouTube video, I think.
Is it a parody video?
It's Gary Oldman, and he's... I wish I had it to like pull up, but he's basically just saying like, enough of athletes being in movies.
Right.
And I'm like, a part of me feels that real hard. Because it's exactly what you said. Like, anyone can think they can do this. But at the same time, if they're going to put in the work and studying and dedication, because I do think that talent isn't the most important thing. I think, and please correct me if you disagree, I think that working hard and studying is even more important than having a natural gift.
The only caveat I would say about I haven't seen the video, so I'm not going to.
I'm going to send it to you.
But I am going to comment it on anyway.
I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, great. The only thing about that that I would say is it doesn't matter who you are if you are willing to do the training. If you are under no illusions about what you don't know.
Right.
If you are an athlete coming in, I know zip. I have this platform. I'm interested in doing this. Help me learn.
Mm-hmm.
I have those clients. I work with those people. I understand that. But those are the people that actually took the time to do that.
For sure. And they also have talents that come with being an athlete that kind of transfer.
Some of it
because
does.
There's a lot of discipline that kind of crosses over.
Work ethic, commitment, all that stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being in tune with your physical instrument as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I need to do better of. I'm
You're
breathing.
apparently
I gotta
breathing
do the Wim Hof.
You're breathing your way
the
into it.
The breathing hurts too much.
Exactly.
I have a new segment that I'm playing with called Silly Questions to Take Very Seriously.
Okay.
Daniel.
Yes.
My question is, what activity are you most afraid of? I almost asked you what is your biggest fear, but I thought that was way too heavy. So what activity are you most afraid of taking on? And I have a reason for asking this. I don't. Is it something that I legitimately might have to do? I mean, an idea.
Like
it's crossed your mind and you're like, I'm never doing that.
The first thing that popped into my head was like flying a jet. I'm probably not gonna do that.
Okay.
And I was thinking more
in one or piloting one.
Piloting one.
Why would you have to pilot a jet?
But I was thinking about all the other people whose lives I was going to be responsible for, and I didn't want to do that.
Here's the thing, The only like situation where I could see like you would need to pilot a jet is
an
like
airplane scenario,
like Independence Day,
right?
Like everyone's
Asking
just
me,
grabbing planes,
get something exactly, and go right. So you're asking something that theoretically I may have to do. What am I afraid of? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean I liked your answer.
I don't know. I got to think about that.
Would you like me to tell you why
tell
I
me,
asked
tell
you
me
this
the question.
question?
Tell me the reason.
Daniel, I don't know if I told you this, but when I was a smidge younger, I was traumatized by a film that you are in.
Oh.
Badly traumatized.
You didn't tell me
because one thing that I am horrified thinking about potentially doing ever because of you is scuba diving.
I'm really sorry about that. I really am, because it's a beautiful sport.
It's an incredible, like, it was so effective, that film. I remember it viscerally. It scared the ever-loving shit out of me. And then I started taking classes with you, and not until probably the second time I was partnered with James did I find out that you were the lead in that film.
Oh, you had no idea.
And I was like, no. That movie, him? I'm learning from him? He ruined my appetite for travel and leisure.
About that. I am.
If you guys haven't seen Open Water and you're in the mood for something real traumatizing, not that I think like anyone's in the mood for more trauma these days.
I don't think that's getting, yeah, exactly.
But you do such a fantastic job, as does your co-star, and it's
Someone sent me an email this morning that it turned out apparently there's a photo of us as clickbait on one of the articles that's going around right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny. That activity was actually something I was not afraid of.
Really?
Yeah. During the whole time, I wasn't afraid of it either. That was of interest to me. I liked that.
Were you trained for scuba diving before?
I got certified officially to shoot the film, but I had been diving, sort of sneaky diving a couple of times with my brother-in-law, who was a trained diver, just to play around.
Sneaky diving?
Well, I hadn't been certified. You're not supposed to use a BC and a reg until you are, but we played around with the tank, and I went down a couple of times with him, but I actually got certified to shoot the film. I wasn't afraid of the sharks. I wasn't.
Were there, like, they were there while you were shooting? They were there.
Are we? How many years of therapy did it take you to get past this scene at the first time?
I am still working on it. Clearly, Daniel.
So I'm not. I don't know if I should answer.
You gotta tell me. It's better that it's out in the open.
There were.
Maybe this will cure me.
There were 50 to 70 reef sharks.
I'm sorry.
In the water with us, and yes.
And so you guys just went to this area where you guys knew it would be.
The company that we shot all the dive footage with, they do shark dives, and so they knew there are certain pods of sharks, and they fed them regularly, so they knew where to find them. And it was actually very interesting because I was living in New York at the time, and we had flown down to do the shark footage. We started with that. This was sort of the beginning of the film.
Welcome to set.
Yes.
Here are some alpha predators.
Here are the extras. So, and we got out on the boat. We flew in, got on the boat, and pulled up. And as soon as they turned the engines off, this like bubbling mass kind of came up, and because they know the sound of the boat engines and know that that's where the food comes from. So they actually were there the minute we stopped. And so the sharks just came up and started swimming around the boat. And I was like, okay. And my co-star said, oh, hell no, not doing this. Not doing it. Not going to happen. So I went in first, and we shot a couple of still shots with me and a couple of singles, and then I got more comfortable with where camera was and stuff, and so then we started playing a little bit from that place. But they were, nobody was it was just us in the water with them, and we got bumped.
bumped, like a nose bump. Aggressive.
No, they're exploratory.
They're like, what are you?
That's what their noses are for. They're huge sensor bundles in their noses. So that's a test. That's to see what you are. And so when we finally got together with my co-star to shoot, in a couple of the shots, we were working on the shark footage, and she stopped kicking me. Stop kicking me. And
you didn't want to say that wasn't me.
I just said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It wasn't me.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah.
Holy shit. So, but you've got like were you afraid at any point? Was there a moment that you're like, fuck?
No, not there. I was more worried about doing a good job.
Yeah.
That's, there's your anxiety. That's where the fear comes from. It's not like the physical manifestation, the physical.
Is this coming across on camera? Like, forget all these 50 sharks. Like,
are they scared enough?
Am I believable? Exactly. They're right there, Daniel.
Yeah. So it was more of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Real sharks are not at all like Hollywood sharks.
I mean, those were Hollywood sharks.
Those
jellyfish.
Those sharks have been in more movies than I have, probably. Those sharks are very working sharks. Yes.
They're very well-fed sharks, it seems. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I'm surprised, like, when they, like, bumped you and they figured out you were, like, a human meat popsicle.
They don't want, we do not taste good to them.
What tastes good to them? Like fish?
Seals and fish. Yeah, they do not like people. That's why most of the bites they don't consume people. Shark bites they're not consuming. It's a test. But if you're a great white, a test bite is very different. And
totally. Take off, it's huge.
Yeah. So, we were not dealing with great whites. I think I probably would feel slightly differently.
Just slightly?
Well, if it's something that's, 1,500, 2,000 pounds and 20 feet long, I do have issues about that stuff. Like, I think I would be one of you asked about the fears. I used to have a huge anxiety about, I think it's called thalassophobia, deep water. And so.
How ironic.
Exactly. So actually, scuba diving took that fear away.
Is it sort of like the fear of deep water? Is it sort of comparable to like a fear of heights, meaning that it's so much space?
It's not just a question of the expanse; it's the question of what's down there. And so that's what I was going to say is that as soon as I got certified to dive and actually did some dives, I was like, oh, this is what's down here. It's all good. I'm okay. I'm not worried. So it was the unknown aspect of it, which got alleviated, which made me feel better.
Isn't that just the most perfect definition of fear? Really? Like, really, it's the fear of it's unknown.
Right.
I have a little bit of like a fear of the dark.
Mm-hmm. Because you can't see.
Yeah, no light.
Right. Oddly.
And yeah. I know it's all the same theoretically, but like what changed? I don't know. Who's lurking behind that door?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing about, deep dark for me. And also not wanting to be left alone there. Like.
Well, yeah. Did you have that before or after your film?
I always had that. And there were a couple of shots when we shot where, the boat would have to come around and come back and get us kind of thing. Or, we drifted off too far and while we were shooting. And I did have a couple of moments of, I do not want to be the only one out here. I think it was, what was the boat, the George Clooney lobster boat movie with.
Oh, Perfect Storm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg's character is the only one left at the end, and he's floating, and he's by himself in this giant.
I haven't seen it.
That's sorry, I just killed that.
Oh, oops! It came out a long time ago.
Yeah,
Get it together, guys.
So, but that's if you talk about a something I would never want to be is that speck that's completely invisible in an ocean setting and that kind of thing. Like that I have a little bit of a thing about.
Good answer. I love that so much. Yay. You're helping me. I'm helping cure the reputation of that actors have, and I'm curing shark reputations too.
Yes, sharks are actually a very vital apex predator. We need them. We need more of them. We need people to stop killing them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't know why. I just looked at the camera.
Yes.
Yes. Don't kill sharks. Very good. What? Okay, this is going to be a hard one, probably.
You like they've been easy so far.
Okay, what 5 plays are must-read? 5 must-reads for actors. I almost picked 3. I'm really sorry, but 5, I'm not going to go over 5. Mandatory. He has about 50 plays, 50 to 70 plays fucking just bobbling around in his head right now.
It's closer to 150, actually. I can't give you 5.
Oh, come on. Give me the first 5 that come to your head.
No, because they're all like the reason to read them is there are different reasons to read them. Mm-hmm. I think absolutely. I'm totally going to skirt your answer. I think absolutely everyone should read a play, a historically significant play that has absolutely no role for them in it.
Okay.
I think that
people are looking too much at character descriptions before they're reading plays.
Actors are also ego-driven in a lot of respects, and so you're instantly going to go to where
are my lines? What do I say?
Right. So I think everyone should read August Wilson's work. I think all of August Wilson's work. I think you should be. For historical significance and context, Shakespeare doesn't really ever go out of style. I think there is an understanding from a baseline of needing to know those plays, aspects of that canon. I do think there are a number of plays that we have revered for years that need to absolutely go by the wayside. It's some of the stuff that I'm trying to adjust in terms of what we teach. There are things that I need you to know, and there are ways to teach you through this piece of material, but this piece of material is really freaking dated right now. So I'm trying to adjust to those things as well. I think everyone should be reading lots of plays. I think we all should be. I think there are some amazing and brilliant and talented new playwrights coming out right now as well. I think that Kotare Hall and Lynn Nottage, I think you need to take a look at David Auburn. And there are a lot of playwrights now who are also showrunners on TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Beau
Willimon, Lucy Preble. You need to know and that's part of what the lines are getting sort of blurred a little bit in terms of film and television versus theatrical understandings. And a lot of playwrights are writing for film and television right now, too.
Yeah. I
know that's one of the things that gets a little bit of a question about our classes. We use plays, but but it's
the work.
And that's that's where the translation comes from. It's the same language.
Yeah.
Yes, the style is slightly different, but it's not that different.
No, it's not.
So I do think that there's a lot of new work coming out right now. I was very excited to see the Drama Bookshop open back up.
Oh, is it open?
It's open.
Yes.
Now, I went online specifically to start to order plays from them, and they don't have that set up. So I don't know if that's going to be happening. But just the fact that it's there makes me happy. Buy plays, read new plays. Read plays that are absolutely a walk in life that you have never taken and have no experience with and no understanding of. Challenge yourself to find a way in. And shit that you're not... Oh, can I swear?
Of course you can. Who are you talking to,
I don't know.
Daniel?
Work on shit you don't know. And stuff that you will never play in anything other than a classroom setting or a rehearsal with friends or a read-through with a group of people. Challenge yourself to play with that stuff. That's how you remain mentally pliable and in a position to attack and approach something from a different angle and to step outside of ourselves. We've spent so much time inwardly, collectively in the last year. And as we start to venture out again, you need to be cognizant of where you've come from, understand what's going on with your instrument and your system, and then be absolutely open and able to be receptive to others' viewpoints and opinions.
Yes.
And right now we have lost some of the constructive dialogue aspect of conversation. I listened to a really great podcast a couple of days ago that was the John O'Donohue, the poet and philosopher. He died in 2009. He challenged the interviewer to say, when was the last time you had a transformative conversation with a friend? When was the last time it was an absolute discussion that was not an exchange of monologues? So much of Western dialogue has become an exchange of monologues. Nobody's listening to each other. This is what I want to say. Now I'm going to let you yap until I get to say something again.
Yeah.
When was the last time you walked away from a conversation changed? When was the last time you remembered that conversation 3 weeks later and were moved by it? We need to start investing in that kind of dialogue again. And there are some tough conversations that have to happen with everyone. We are in a massive sort of adjustment and growth spurt as a society right now. A lot of pain, and a lot of that needs to be recognized and honored. And that's part of what I've come out of this with, sort of a renewed sense of, oh, yeah, that's where I want to be. That's where I can help. At least if it's from a place of giving you the tools to have the conversation. I certainly do not have the answers, but I can at least ask you questions which will help you get to that place.
That's beautiful. I like that very much.
I'm glad you
And
approve.
I related to it because, I'm doing this, right?
You
and
are.
so I'm
and doing
trying
it well, by the way.
No, you're very sweet. Thank you. But I really enjoy listening to people, but there are times where I do get caught up in my own head while I know I need to be engaging and listening actively, because they're always like, oh, that's a clever thing to say, but like hanging on to that
Right.
instead of listening.
Right.
And I feel like everyone's guilty of that, whether it be
Absolutely.
through their own head or through like looking down at your phone or like being distracted by other things going on in your brain. It's challenging because our attention spans are a little bit different with everything that's at our fingertips now.
Not a little bit, a lot. I've talked about this a bunch. We talk about this as class all the time, and we are losing the ability to even maintain eye contact.
Yeah.
We're losing the ability to have consistent conversation. That's actual conversation.
That makes me so sad.
And
I'm guilty of it, but it still makes me sad.
and I don't necessarily know what the remedy is, or if there will be one, or if this is just the way things are, and we are on a path where we are all going to genetically sort of hunch over and turn into these
golem,
electronic, these
hoarders.
screen watching golems, and I do think there's a little bit of the Wild West of that. I don't know where that's going to end up. I mean, potentially it's all going to end up being put as a chip in your brain anyway. So I don't
That's true.
I don't know.
Wow. Yeah. Practice like Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Practice your breathing. Practice your listening.
It is not an easy thing to do. We've lost the ability to do it. It's the same thing I talked to you guys about in class. Listen as if your life depends on it. I believe that I'm going to misquote. I think it's Loretta Young, but I'm not positive. But it's listen as if you were an animal in the forest and your life depended on it, because it does. Your acting life does depend on that. Listening is equally important as responding. Active listening.
Yeah.
And yes, the minute you have that little, oh, this is a clever thing to say. I'm holding this.
Oh,
I'm holding
it's
this. I'm
brilliant.
holding this. I'm holding this. I'm holding this. Are they done talking yet? Are they done talking? Oh, can I say my thing now? Yeah, exactly. And you've just missed the 2 minutes of whatever it was.
And you're missing out on like potentially the conversation going somewhere even better than you had planned.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's great. I love that very much.
So maybe don't plan, just listen.
Just listen. I mean, plus I read somewhere in an article that people that they studied people who have conversations, and people that listen a lot to the other person are looked at as more, I don't know if attractive is the right word, but they're like, people come away from that conversation thinking they had a better conversation.
Because someone was
listening.
Right.
Not so much because the talking was so good. That was a great conversation. They were listening to me.
Right. I do think that you just hit on a big thing, there are so many people desperate to be heard right now in the world. And we've got this weird new that shows my age. It's not new. This internet.
You always
thing,
say that, and it's so not true.
Well, but like it's in its sort of infancy, but it's this understanding that there's now an ability to communicate across the world, and so there's this plight here and this plight here and this plight here. Well, now everybody knows what that is. Everybody sees that. So adjusting your capacity to understand what you can control and what you can't, but being absolutely empathetic and open to what's happening on a global perspective. There were times when I had to stop watching news.
Yeah.
Because I had lost my ability to filter.
Mm-hmm.
I'd lost the place of, I can see this and I can recognize it. I can have an emotion about it, but it's not going to take me down.
It's not a part of
right.
you.
I had lost a little bit of that and got to the place of, oh, it's all just hitting me. And so I take breaks that way.
Yeah.
But yes, people are desperate to be heard, and listening is a big tool to do that. Just listen. Don't form an opinion. Wait till someone's finished to hear exactly what they're trying to say. Recognize it. Take that in. And respond if you have something to respond.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. Don't feel like you have to say something all the time.
No, you don't have to.
Sometimes it's better to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that I had something this past week where I wanted to be reactive.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose not to be and to take my time.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, I was like, there's no need.
Right.
Being reactive would have caused me a lot more problems, and I would have ended up at the same realization if I just took a minute.
Perspective. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Daniel.
Yes.
Are you okay?
No, I don't think anyone's okay. I know this is and this was the one I had an answer to. I know. No one's okay. We're not okay. And that's great to recognize. I think everybody should absolutely be working on how to be a better member of society. How to be. There's so much of this collective understanding of me, mine, and you don't get to be me, mine, and still exist in all of this.
Yeah.
That's the part where if you want to go be me, mine, there are places on this planet where nobody will bother you. Go to those places. But if you're going to choose to be in society, you need to participate in society.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that needs to be considered a choice and a good thing to do. And I think that we are all going to be a little less pink slimy, Ghostbustery pink slimy, and a little more okay if we listen to each other. And if we don't denigrate each other's voices. If you don't agree with it, don't agree with it. There's a whole lot of people I don't agree with right now.
Yeah.
And if I'm in a position to express an opinion that I think will elicit and affect change, then potentially I will engage in that conversation if it's appropriate, if it's met. I mean, and that's the thing. Then you're talking about appropriate conversations. Well, there's going to be conversations that aren't necessarily appropriate but need to be had. And so if you're going to go down that path, that's also maybe a place to be more okay, is the after, the collective understanding. I think it's a work in progress, as Drew said. I think everybody's on their way.
It's too soon to tell,
exactly.
Pam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I saw a statistic, it was a photo, and it was on one side was the Wright brothers, and on the other side was landing on the moon. Those were 66 years apart.
Mm-hmm. Wild.
Not even a single lifespan. The internet, I am of a time that knew pre-internet.
Mm-hmm.
And
me too.
I had no idea.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that it is the wild frontier in that respect, and I think that in a lot of respects, we as a society were not prepared for what this was going to do in terms of communication and access.
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched a little bit of your interview with Jason. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of hoping all of these sort of newly released reports are really encouraging to me, because I do think as a society right now, or as a planet right now, one of the only things that's going to get us all on the same page is an enemy that's other, or is there's something else that's out there that we don't know as a planet, and all of a sudden we all have to recognize that we are in the same ship.
Just to be humbled a little bit.
Well, and joined together. It puts everybody on the same team in a different way.
Yeah.
When there's a different team.
I don't know if I'm ready for another enemy.
Well, it's
the other, something new that everyone's experiencing together.
I think it will be instantly treated as an enemy, which is why I said that.
Because of the fear.
Yes. But the fear is part of what puts everybody together. There are conflicts that have been centuries old, the thousands of years conflicts that are still to this day existing. And until and unless there is something else to focus on, I actually thought potentially the global pandemic would be a thing that did that. And I was silly, naive.
I had that thought too at one point. It's not silly, but it is, now looking back, it's a far cry, I suppose.
Yeah. It just raised tensions. It just raised the stress levels for everyone.
For sure.
And yeah.
This was so lovely.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
Did you?
I'm still nervous.
What? You did so great. Yes. Daniel, where can our listeners follow you? If you want them to follow you. If not,
I don't even do that stuff.
Yeah, he's rarely, he doesn't post.
I don't. I'm not. I don't really choose to participate.
That's okay. That's good. Okay. Very good.
You can find me through Pamela.
All right. Just find me and you'll find him. Very good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You are spectacular.
As are you.
Thank you. We will see you next time.
Take care.
Bye. I'm looking at all of them.
Exactly.
Which one?
I know.
This podcast was produced by Jason Crow and me, Pamela Portnoy, with music by Jordan Ross Weinhold. You can follow the show on Instagram and Facebook at No One's Okay, and please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. We love kind reviews. No One's Okay is also on YouTube, so if you want to see our faces, please subscribe to our channel. An extra special thank you goes out to Sean Moore, Claire Palmer, Jackson Palmer, Tiffany Haymoff, and Alexa Marie Anderson. This podcast was recorded at Soundworks Studios. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.